Lurking in the shadows of East London, a man in his 20s is a long way home. But as the lights go down and people snort their usual white poison, the homegrown cartel comes an inch closer to monopolizing the cocaine gig in the country. And nothing can stop them. This is the story of the rise of the Albanian Mafia. Welcome to Crime Site, and today we're breaking down the powerful regime of the kings of cocaine. Ah, yes. Behind every successful criminal syndicate from Eastern Europe lies the devastating fall of communism that left police scrapping from crumbs. And the rise of the Albanian Mafia also finds its criminal roots in the same opportunity window. In 1991, Albania was living through its last day of communism, and the country's most terrifying state police, the Sigurimi, was about to lose its reign of power. When the police were finally disbanded, almost 10,000 officials were left with no jobs and money, and since their state failed them, the karmic justice would call for the biggest revenge in history. As we talk about the Albanian Mafia today, their first leaders were the former Sigurimi officers who turned a blind eye to the rule of law. Then, something even more horrifying happens. In the biggest irony of all, it's actually the government of Albania that gives rise to organized crime in the country. Quite literally, the state handed over military-grade weapons to the common people to kickstart syndicates. So, what went down?
We actually reached a state where people started behaving worse than animals. Try to understand what terror the staff in the hospital have to live with when people from outside come and kill their patients right in front of their eyes.
In 1997, Albania went through an absolute economic collapse when the state-sponsored pyramid scheme failed. And this wasn't your average internet scam that led you to buy an incumbent coupon. Nope, far from it. It's the type of scam that cost 2,000 Albanian lives, a toppled government, $1.2 billion vanished in thin air. When the government tried to push the country to a market economy, it was a colossal failure. And the civil unrest raged in Albania. The people retaliated against their own government after raiding military artilleries and stealing almost 550,000 small arms. Now, you didn't just have any amateur gangs on your tail. They were organized and armed. But since 1997, the Albanian crime scene has changed drastically. When we think of the kings of cocaine production, our minds immediately go to the Colombian cartel and the notorious drug lords Pablo Escobar and Gacha. Call them the media sensation or clout chasers, but even their drug monopoly doesn't come close to the Albanian Mafia. It's almost like the media lies to us when it conveniently sidelines the Eastern Europe groups that have a global chokehold over cocaine supply. In their operations, they are the real monopoly in cartels, and in Europe, no one comes close.
It was here in the mid-1980s that Pablo Escobar built not only the world's foremost cocaine cartel, but also a base of support.
But then why do we not get to hear about them like other ethnic cartels? You have the Cosa Nostra, the Yakuzas, the Sinaloa cartel, and many more, all tied by family and ethnic ties. So, what's so different from the Albanian Mafia? Well, for starters, the Albanian Mafia isn't a monolith that the media makes them to be. In the world of organized crime, they're hardly organized. While Albanian Mafia is a buzzword, it represents all ethnic and non-ethnic drug cartels operating in the world. What is really important is that not all of them come from Albania. Sure, you'll have some natives, but the OG cartels adopted some disintegrating crime syndicates, and well, they made friends along the way. For the most part, these violent drug lords will speak fluent Albanian, but if you ever get hands on their real ID, you'll be shocked to see they have no connection to the country at all. So, organized crime experts regard the Mafia as a big myth that has more categorizations than narcotics forces have deets on. For them, there's no back home. In their annual parties, there won't be any stories from Albania. If anything, they'd have more fodder from London, out of all places. And here's why. The unstructured nature of the Mafia means that the law enforcement hardly has complete info on them. But something that many brutal criminals hailing from Albania and Kosovo have in common is their knack for controlling the cocaine market, and the rising capital of the white poison empire is London. The deepest pits of the internet in the UK would churn up a series of showy videos. You'd have men in their 20s flexing their Lamborghinis, brand new Rolex, and heaps of money. You know, everything that working class men in the country struggle for. To make a point, they'll even muster up badly written rap, and in this age and time, this is the signature hallmark of Albanian gangs in London. Such videos mostly have two purposes. First, it's a not-so-subtle message to the police that, hey, we're here, and we're here to stay. And second, we're hiring. Today, the umbrella of the Albanian Mafia is about to take over the billion-dollar cocaine industry in the UK, and their business model is the one to go down in textbooks for its effectiveness. You see, before these gangs chimed in, mafia bosses would buy cocaine from third-party enterprises. So, you wouldn't have Pablo Escobar showing up to one of the sales. Then, the Albanians changed the game. To this day, they directly buy their poison from South American cartels. As other gangs in the country, such as the Dutch ones, were buying from wholesale retailers, their prices were 4 times that of the Albanians. Cost-efficient, readily available, and pure cocaine. Who wouldn't want a piece of that? The business model hasn't changed yet. This is exactly why the gangs have climbed up the cartel ladder in the country, and other than gloating about their gold chains, the cartels have a violent modus operandi to strike control. Before we move on, if unearthing the low-profile drug cartels that don't find media glorification is your thing, then subscribe to our channel. How do you establish an infallible drug empire in the most progressive cities of the world? Well, in the playbook of the Albanian Mafia, prying on desperate, vulnerable immigrants does the trick. By all accounts, the Mafia is old school. They keep it in the family. There are political marriages, and the blood relations come first. But to expand their drug empire, the drug lords have an open-door hiring policy for their cronies. As they get a new recruit, they're required to sign the cartel's honor code, or BESA. Before giving up on your bosses, you gotta give up your life. But that's the inner organization of the cartel. On the streets, the Mafia has a knack for sending a message to their opponents through stabbing, slashing, kidnapping, and pedophile rings. Usual for a drug cartel, right? Believe it or not, the new generation of the Albanian Mafia is turning things around. They're ditching the generational practice of staying low and never making their presence known to the police. But their widespread network seems to challenge the police, even if it's leaving trails of tortured victims who didn't pay off their debts or making affluent music videos. Yet, the Mafia youth slips right under the noses of the law enforcement. This has a lot to do with how the drug lords are organizing their bases. As of now, the cartel boldly rents out properties in seemingly normal neighborhoods, and through tactics of intimidation and torture, it keeps the mouths of landlords pretty shut. Their operation bases range from rich real estate to abandoned gas stations. Inside, you'd find the entire supply chain of cocaine mapped out, and of course, homegrown cannabis plants. Let it be extortion, debt traps, or smuggling drugs to high school students, the money keeps coming in. For them, cash is king, and it has long trails of transactions within the country and hefty payments to South American drug markets. Yet, they seem to oversmart the financial crimes task forces in most countries. Because the trick is to keep it simple. You won't find them sending money to their launderers and offshore accounts through highly encrypted personalized channels. Nope. Why go an extra mile when you have a Western Union account? The Albanian Mafia moves money using simple, everyday channels because they require minimum information. Their empire deals billions, and so far, they're thriving in the streets of London. Do you think the success of the Albanian Mafia has everything to do with their recruitment methods? Comment below and subscribe for the unraveling of the world of crime.